You know that moment when you realize your life is about to change forever? Mine happened at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in my apartment overlooking downtown Denver, surrounded by empty bottles of bourbon and the wreckage of what used to be a promising career. I was lying on my leather couch, and I mean lying, not sitting, because sitting required effort I didn't have anymore. Watching myself on the screen mounted to my wall. Yeah, I know how pathetic that sounds, but there I was, 26 years old, watching 24-year-old me land a perfect quad axel at Nationals 2 years ago. Back when Max Donald was a name that meant something. Back when people called me America's Ice Prince. Back when my ankle wasn't held together with more hardware than a Home Depot. The video ended with me on the podium, gold medal around my neck, that smile I used to have before I forgot what genuine happiness felt like. My endorsement deals had been insane back then. Watches, athletic wear, even a fragrance campaign. I'd thought I was invincible. Then YouTube's algorithm, in its infinite cruelty, autoplayed the next video. And here comes the newcomer, Zach Bennett, with his signature triple axle combination. I grabbed the remote and threw it across the room. Missed the TV by a mile. Story of my life these days. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Again. It had been buzzing all afternoon, but I'd been ignoring it because that's what you do when you're having a perfectly good breakdown. But this time, it didn't stop. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Like whoever was calling had no concept of taking a hint. I grabbed it ready to tell them exactly where they could shove their concern, but the caller ID made me pause. Annie Chen, my coach. Well, my former coach. I hadn't talked to her since... Actually, I'd been avoiding her calls for about 3 months now. Against my better judgment, I answered, "If this is another intervention, get your ass to the Olympic Training Center, 1 hour." Her voice was sharp, no nonsense, pure Annie. "I'm busy. Doing what? Drinking expensive bourbon and feeling sorry for yourself? I can multitask. You can do that at the rink." I sat up and an empty bottle rolled off my chest onto the floor. "Annie, we've been through this. I can't do singles anymore. The ankle." "I know about your ankle, Max. I was there when it happened, remember? When you landed wrong and I heard it snap from across the rink? When you screamed? When they carried you off on a stretcher?" Her voice softened slightly. "I also remember the kid who got back up every single time he fell. So get dressed and get to the rink, or I'm coming there and dragging you out in whatever you're wearing." I looked down. Designer loungewear. Navy blue. "You wouldn't." "Try me. 1 hour, Max. Don't be late." She hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, bourbon scattered around me like evidence of my decline, and thought about ignoring her, about staying exactly where I was, safe in my cocoon of failure and luxury that suddenly felt meaningless. Then I thought about that kid she'd mentioned, the one who got back up. I tried to remember what that felt like. Wanting something badly enough to risk falling? I couldn't. But maybe that was the problem. 45 minutes later, I was pulling into the parking lot of the Olympic Training Center. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I hadn't been here since the injury. Hadn't been able to face it. The place where all my dreams lived. Where I'd spent 10,000 hours perfecting every edge, every turn, every impossible jump. The place where it all ended. I almost turned around, almost drove home to my couch and my bourbon and my YouTube spiral. But then I saw Annie standing by the entrance, arms crossed, wearing that expression that said she'd physically block my car if I tried to leave. "You're late," she said when I got out. "You said 1 hour. It's been 52 minutes. "I said 1 hour because I knew you'd be late." She started walking toward the entrance, assuming I'd follow. "I did because Annie Chen wasn't someone you said no to." "How's the ankle?" "Fine. Great. Perfect." Can barely tell it was shattered into 17 pieces. "Don't be dramatic. It was only 12. And Dr. Morrison does good work." Despite everything, I almost smiled. "What am I doing here, Annie?" She stopped at the door to the rink, her hand on the handle. For the first time, I saw something like nervousness cross her face. "I have a proposition for you, but I need you to come in with an open mind." "That's not ominous at all." "Annie, I'm serious." She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the concern underneath her stern exterior. "You're drowning. I've watched you pull away from everyone who cares about you, hide in that apartment, convince yourself that skating is over. You have no purpose anymore, and you're not getting better, you're getting worse. The words hit harder than they should have, maybe because they were true. So what's the proposition? Therapy? A life coach? Pairs skating. The words hung in the cold air between us. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. What? Pairs skating. You and a partner. There's a championship in 3 months, and I think you could compete. I actually laughed. Anyway, I've never done pairs in my life. I don't know the first thing about you know how to skate. You know technique better than anyone I've ever coached, and you need a reason to get out of that apartment. She pulled open the door. Just come meet him. Talk to him. If you hate the idea after that, I'll never bring it up again. Him. Something in my chest tightened. Who? But Annie was already walking inside, and I was following her because apparently I had lost all ability to make my own decisions. The familiar smell hit me first, that unique combination of ice and rubber and sweat that I'd been breathing since I was 6 years old. Then the cold, seeping through my jacket. Then the sound. Skates on ice, the scrape and glide that used to be the soundtrack to my life. The rink was mostly empty. A few junior skaters were practicing at the far end. And in the center, moving through what looked like a step sequence, was someone I recognized immediately. Zach Bennett. My stomach dropped. No, absolutely not. No way in hell. Annie?
Max, you said you had a proposition, not a death wish. I started backing toward the door. Do you know who that is? Of course I know who it is. He's been training here for 6 months.
He's the guy who replaced me, who took my spot on the national team, my sponsorships, my entire career while I stopped, jaw clenched. You know what? This was a mistake. I'm leaving. He requested you specifically. That stopped me. What? When I mentioned the possibility of pairs, he said he wanted to skate with you, not anyone else. You. I watched Zach move across the ice. He was good. I'd seen his competitions, couldn't avoid them even when I tried. He had this raw power to his skating, this intensity that made you unable to look away. Technically strong, artistically bold, and yeah, okay, objectively talented. Also, objectively the last person on earth I wanted to be trapped on the ice with. Why would he want to skate with me? I asked. We competed against each other once. I won. He came in second. Then he spent the next year taking everything I had worked for. Annie's expression softened. Maybe you should ask him yourself. Before I could respond, Zach noticed us. He came to a stop in the center of the ice, blades throwing up a spray of snow, and even from here I could see him tense. Then he started skating toward us. No, toward me, with this determined expression that made my pulse quicken for reasons I absolutely did not want to examine. He was taller than I remembered, broader. His dark hair was perfectly styled even at this hour, falling slightly into his eyes as he moved. And when he got close enough for me to really see his face, I realized 2 things simultaneously. 1, Zach Bennett had gotten unfairly attractive in the 2 years since I'd seen him up close. And 2, he was looking at me like I was the only person in the entire rink. Max Donald, he said, coming to a stop at the boards. His voice was deeper than I remembered too, with this rough edge that did absolutely nothing to my nervous system. Wasn't sure you'd actually show up. Yeah, well, Annie's very persuasive. That's one word for it. He smiled, not a smirk, not cocky, just genuine. And I felt it like a punch to the gut. I'm Zach, but you probably know that. I know you stole my career while I was in physical therapy. The smile disappeared. Annie made a sound like a dying cat, and Zach just looked at me, something unreadable in his dark eyes. Right. That's what you think happened. It's what did happen. Actually, what happened was you got injured doing something reckless, and I worked my ass off for 10 years to get good enough to compete at that level. But sure, we can go with your version where I'm the villain who stole your spotlight. Excuse me. You're excused. He crossed his arms, and I couldn't help but notice how the movement made his shoulders look even broader. Look, I didn't ask Annie to set this up so we could rehash old competitions. I asked because I need a partner who understands elite-level skating, who has the technical foundation I lack, and who might actually challenge me instead of just following my lead. Annie said that's you. Was she wrong? I stared at him. He stared back. The air between us felt charged, dangerous, like right before a thunderstorm. I don't do pairs, I said. Neither do I. Guess we'll figure it out together. I don't like you. Good. I don't need you to like me. I need you to skate with me. He tilted his head, studying me in a way that made me want to squirm. I've watched your old competitions, Max. Like all of them. You used to skate like you had nothing to lose, like you were free. Now you look like you're already defeated before you even step on the ice. You don't know anything about me. Then prove me wrong. He pushed back from the boards. One practice, that's all I'm asking. If it's terrible, if we hate it, we walk away. But if there's even a chance we could be good together. He paused. Don't you want to know what that feels like? The way he said it, good together, made something warm unfurl low in my stomach. His eyes held mine, dark and intense, and I swear I could feel the heat of his gaze from here. Annie was watching us like we were a particularly interesting tennis match. I should have said no, should have walked out right then, gone home to my couch, continued my slow descent into irrelevance. But something in Zach's expression, challenge and hope mixed together, made me hesitate. One practice, I heard myself say, but I'm not promising anything after that. Zach's smile came back, brighter this time. That's all I need. Great, Annie clapped her hands together. Max, go get your skates. Zach, start warming up. We'll run through some basic elements and see how it feels. I headed to the locker room in a daze, wondering what the hell I just agreed to. My skates were still in my car. I'd never been able to throw them away, even though I hadn't worn them in months. I grabbed them and sat on the bench, staring at the worn leather, the blades that had carried me through countless competitions. I can do this, I muttered to myself. It's just one practice with the guy who replaced me and looks like he walked off a magazine cover and somehow convinced me to get back on the ice after 18 months of hiding. When I put the skates on, my hands were shaking. The right one, especially, the one attached to the ankle that had betrayed me. I laced them slowly, testing the fit around my brace. The doctors had cleared me for skating 6 months ago, but my brain still didn't trust it. Every time I thought about jumping, about landing, I felt that snap again, heard myself scream. Max, Annie appeared in the doorway. You okay? Define okay. She sat down next to me. You don't have to do this. If it's too much... Why him? I interrupted. Of all the skaters you could have paired me with, why Zach Bennett? Annie was quiet for a moment. Because he asked for you. Because when I mentioned your name, his whole face lit up and he said you're the reason he started skating in the first place. That he saw you compete when he was 15 and decided that's what he wanted to be. I looked at her. You're making that up. Ask him yourself. She stood. Come on, he's waiting. I took a breath, stood, walked back to the rink on shaking legs. Zach was at the boards, and when he saw me, something softened in his expression. Something that made my chest tight. Ready? He asked. No, not even a little bit. Sure. I stepped onto the ice. The first glide almost made me cry. I'd forgotten, somehow, impossibly, I'd forgotten what this felt like. The way the world fell away the moment your blades touched the ice. The sensation of floating, of freedom, of being exactly where you belonged. I did a slow lap, testing my ankle, reacquainting myself with the ice. Zach skated beside me, not saying anything, just there, present. And I was acutely aware of him. The sound of his breathing, the way he moved with such confidence, the occasional brush of his arm against mine as we turned. After a few minutes, I looked over at him. Okay, I said. What now? His smile was brilliant. Now we see if we can fly.
The next hour was a blur of falling and trying and falling again. We started with basic elements, stroking in unison, trying to match each other's rhythm. Then simple lifts where I'd support his weight as he extended into various positions. And God, touching him was... Every point of contact felt electric. My hands on his waist as I lifted him, his fingers gripping my shoulders for balance, the heat of his body pressed against mine as we worked through the movements. He was solid, strong, and I could feel the power in him, coiled and controlled. You're tensing up during one lift, his face inches from mine. Relax. Trust me. I barely know you. Then get to know me. His breath was warm against my cheek. I don't bite. Usually. That shouldn't have made my pulse race, but it did. We moved to side-by-side jumps. Nothing fancy, just doubles to see if we could land in sync. We couldn't. We were terrible. Our timing was off, and I fell more times than I wanted to count. Each time I landed wrong on my ankle, I felt that spike of fear, that certainty that it would give out. Each time, Zach would skate over, offer his hand, pull me up. And each time, when his hand closed around mine, I felt something I couldn't quite name. Something that felt dangerous and necessary all at once. Again, he'd say, like falling was just part of the process, like he wasn't going to let me quit. By the end, we were both sweating and frustrated and completely out of sync. Annie called us over to the boards. "Well," she said, looking between us, "that was terrible," I finished. "We're terrible together." "You're not terrible," Zach said, breathing hard. Sweat made his dark hair stick to his forehead, and I had to actively stop myself from staring. "You're scared," he said. "There's a difference." "I'm not..." I stopped, because he was right, and we both knew it. "My ankle is fine. I watched you. You're compensating, protecting it, but it's holding. The problem isn't your ankle. It's that you don't trust it, and you don't trust me. I don't even know you." "Exactly, so let's fix that." He glanced at Annie. "We're done for today, right?" She looked amused. "I suppose." "Great," Zach looked back at me, and the way his eyes raked over my face made my skin feel too warm. "Have dinner with me." I blinked. "What?" "Dinner. Food. Conversation. If we're going to be partners, we should probably be able to stand each other. Unless you have plans." I could think of about 17 reasons why this was a bad idea. But looking at him, at those dark eyes and that challenging smile and the way he was looking at me like he wanted to figure me out, I found myself nodding. "Fine. One dinner." "That's the spirit." He pulled off his gloves. "I know a place. Nothing fancy, but the food's incredible." "Let me guess. You're a regular?" "Something like that." His smile turned playful. "Meet you out front in 15. I watched him head toward the locker room, and Andy appeared at my elbow. "Well, that went... well, we were awful. You were rusty. There's a difference. But more importantly, did you feel it?" "Feel what?" "The ice, the freedom, the thing you've been missing." Her expression turned serious. "I saw it, Max. For the first time in 18 months, I saw you actually want to be there." I wanted to deny it, but she was right. Despite the falling, despite the fear, despite Zach Bennett and his impossible confidence and his heated looks, I'd felt it. That spark, that possibility. "One dinner," I said firmly. "Then we'll see. That's all I ask. Oh, and Max, try to be nice. He's not the enemy." "Then why does it feel like he is?" She just smiled and walked away, leaving me standing there, still in my skates, wondering if I was about to make the best or worst decision of my life. Turns out, with Zach Bennett, it might be both. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of Zach's car, a sleek BMW that smelled like leather and his cologne, trying not to think about how small the space felt with both of us in it. He drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on the gear shift, confident and relaxed. I kept stealing glances at him. Couldn't help it. The strong line of his jaw, the way his throat moved when he swallowed, those hands that had been on my body less than an hour ago, steadying me, lifting me, burning through every layer between us. So, 18 months, he said, eyes on the road. What'd you do with all that time? Became a professional hermit. Very competitive field. He laughed, and the sound did something strange to my chest. I can imagine. Did you win? Gold medal in avoiding human contact, silver in day drinking, bronze in convincing myself I was fine. Sounds fulfilling. It was terrible. The admission surprised me. I hadn't meant to be honest. But you probably knew that. I had suspicions. He glanced over, and there was something soft in his expression that made my mouth go dry. I tried to visit, after the injury. Andy said you weren't seeing anyone. I wasn't. Were you trying to punish yourself, or were you just scared? The question was too sharp, too knowing. What makes you think I was scared? Because I've watched that fall about 1,000 times. I've seen the way you landed, heard you scream, watched
Then carry you off. And I've thought about what that must feel like, having everything you've worked for your entire life just end in 1 second, one mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a 4-rotation axle that nobody had landed cleanly in competition before. Exactly. It was you doing what you always did, pushing boundaries, taking risks, being brilliant. He pulled into a parking lot outside a modern steakhouse, killed the engine but didn't get out, just turned in his seat to face me. And then it broke you. Not just your ankle. You. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't look at him. You don't get to... I'm not judging you, Max. I'm trying to understand you. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. Because if we're going to do this, if we're going to be partners, I need to know what I'm working with. What you're afraid of. What you need. The way he said need made heat pool in my stomach. I don't need anything. I managed. Liar. The word hung between us, sharp and true. I finally looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something I hadn't expected in his dark eyes. Hunger. I stopped, swallowed hard. I need to not be afraid anymore. I need to remember what it felt like before everything fell apart. I need to matter again. You matter. Not like I used to. Not like you do now. Zach was quiet for a long moment. Then, you want to know why I requested you? Specifically? Why I told Annie I wouldn't partner with anyone else? Because I felt bad for you? Because I saw you skate when I was 15 years old. Junior Nationals. You landed a triple axel so perfect, so effortless, that I forgot to breathe. And I thought, that's what I want. That freedom, that joy, that absolute certainty that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. He leaned closer, and I could smell his cologne now, something clean and sharp that made my head spin. You asked why I stole your career. I didn't. I spent 10 years trying to become even a fraction of what you were. And I'm good, Max. I know I'm good. But I've never had what you had. That spark. That magic. I don't have it anymore. Bullshit. I saw it today. When you were on the ice for just a second before the fear kicked in, I saw it. His voice dropped even lower, almost a whisper. And I want to help you find it again. Not because I feel bad for you, but because skating with someone who has that, who understands that, that's what I've been looking for. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process the fact that Zach Bennett, the guy who'd taken everything from me, apparently thought I was the one with something he wanted. More than that, the way he was looking at me, like he wanted to devour me, like I was something precious and dangerous and absolutely necessary. I'm a mess, I said, my voice rougher than I intended. I can barely land doubles anymore. My ankle hurts every single day, and I don't know if I can trust it, or me, or any of this. Then we'll figure it out together. He reached across the console, and before I could process what was happening, his hand was on my thigh, just resting there. Warm, and solid, and absolutely deliberate. But first, dinner. Then, tomorrow, we'll get back on the ice and fall on our asses some more. Eventually, we'll stop falling. I stared at his hand on my leg, at the way his fingers curved against my muscle, possessive and careful all at once. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. You're very optimistic for someone who just spent an hour crashing into me. That's because I've seen what we could be. Trust me. I looked at his hand, then up at his face, at those dark eyes watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Thought about trust, about risk, about all the ways this could go wrong. Then, I put my hand on his. Don't make me regret this, Bennett. His smile was slow, devastating. Wouldn't dream of it, Donald. We walked into the restaurant, and I was hyper-aware of him beside me. The way he moved, confident and commanding. The way he placed his hand on the small of my back as we followed the hostess to our table, his touch burning through my shirt, and the way other people looked at him and at us with curiosity and interest. We slid into a leather booth, and suddenly the space felt intimate, private. His knee brushed against mine under the table, and neither of us moved away. Okay, real talk. When's the last time you let yourself enjoy something? And I don't mean skating. I mean really enjoy something. I don't know. 3 years? 4? That's a problem. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, and I couldn't help but notice the way his shirt stretched across his shoulders. You're getting the ribeye, medium rare, and whatever sides you want. And you're going to eat it and enjoy it. And we're not going to talk about macros or training diets or any of that. You're very bossy. You like it. The way he said it wasn't a question, it was a statement. And the knowing look in his eyes said he'd seen the way I reacted to his hand on my thigh, to his touch on my back. He wasn't wrong. The waitress appeared, and Zach ordered for us both with easy confidence, including a bottle of wine that I knew cost more than dinner. When she left, he turned his attention back to me, and the weight of his gaze made me shift in my seat. So, tell me something real, something I can't learn from watching competition footage. Like what? Like, what made you want to skate in the first place? Before the medals and the spotlight, what was it about the ice? I thought about deflecting, but something in his expression, genuine curiosity, real interest, made me honest. Dad, I said quietly. He died when I was 16. Heart attack. And skating, it was the one place where I could forget. Where I could just be. Where the grief didn't follow me. Zach's expression softened. I'm sorry about your dad. It was 10 years ago. Doesn't make it hurt less. He was quiet for a long moment. Then my mom. She sacrificed everything for my skating. Worked herself to exhaustion so I could have private lessons, better coaches, the best equipment. She believed in me when nobody else did. He looked down at his hands. She died. 2 years ago. Cancer. And He stopped. Swallowed hard. Didn't finish. You wanted to make her proud. 2. Yeah, I did. I do. He looked up and there was something raw in his eyes. That's why I pushed so hard. Why I need to be the best. Because she sacrificed everything. And I can't let that be for nothing.
We sat there, two broken people held together by grief and skates and impossible dreams. And for the first time since the injury, I felt like someone actually understood. We're pretty messed up, I said. Completely. Zach's smile was sad around the edges, but maybe that's what makes us good partners. We know what it's like to lose everything. We know what's at stake.
Or maybe we're both too damaged to pull this off. Only one way to find out. He reached across the table and his hand found mine. His fingers laced through mine, warm and strong and deliberate. Tomorrow, 6 a.m., we try again. And this time, you trust me and yourself. Deal? I looked at our joined hands, at the way his thumb was stroking along my knuckles, sending electricity up my arm. Thought about trust, about risk, about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Then I thought about how good it had felt to be on the ice again, even for just an hour. How maybe, possibly, this could be something. Deal, I heard myself say. Zach's smile was worth every ounce of fear coursing through my veins. The food arrived, and it was incredible. We talked about everything and nothing. Favorite movies, worst training injuries, the ridiculous things judges had said to us over the years. He made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time in months. And every so often, his foot would brush against mine under the table, or his eyes would linger on my mouth, and I'd feel that pull, that magnetic attraction that I couldn't deny anymore. By the time we finished, the restaurant was mostly empty. Zach paid the bill before I could even reach for my wallet, waving off my protest with a grin. My idea, my treat. Besides, he leaned in close as we stood, his breath warm against my ear. Besides, you can get the next one. The assumption that there would be a next one made my stomach flip. He drove me back to the training center to get my car, and we sat in his BMW for a few extra minutes, neither of us quite ready for the night to end. So, he said, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel, 6 a.m. You'll actually show up this time? Probably. Probably. Definitely. Maybe. Possibly. He laughed. I'll take possibly. Then more seriously, thank you, Max, for giving this a shot. I know it wasn't easy. Still isn't. I know, but... He turned to look at me, and in the dim light of the parking lot, his eyes were impossibly dark, impossibly intense. I think we could be great together, if you let us. There was something in the way he said it, together, that made my pulse quicken, something that felt like it meant more than just skating. And the way he was looking at me, like he wanted to close the distance between us, like he was holding himself back through sheer willpower. We'll see, I managed. Yeah, we will. He didn't look away, and neither did I, and the air in the car suddenly felt charged, electric. His gaze dropped to my mouth, lingered there for a heartbeat, and I swear I stopped breathing. Max, he said softly, his voice rough with something I couldn't quite name. If I'm reading this wrong, tell me now. Reading what wrong? This, he gestured between us, and his hand trembled slightly. The tension, the way you've been looking at me all night like you can't decide if you want to punch me or... His eyes met mine, dark and hungry. Or kiss me. My heart slammed against my ribs. I don't... You do. He leaned closer, slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. I've felt it all day. Every time we touched on the ice, every time our eyes met across the table, this pull between us. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Tell me you don't feel it too. I should have denied it, should have laughed it off and gotten out of the car. Instead, I heard myself say, I feel it. Something flared in his eyes. Triumph, desire, good, because it's been driving me crazy all day. He reached up, his hand cupping my jaw, thumb brushing along my cheekbone. I swear I stopped breathing. Max, he said softly, his voice rough with something I couldn't quite name, but I'm not going to kiss you. Not yet. Why not? Because when I do, his thumb traced my bottom lip and I inhaled sharply. When I finally get to taste you, I want to do it right. Not in a parking lot after one dinner. I want to earn it. Want you to trust me first. Can you wait for that? I was going to combust right here in his car. You're killing me. His smile was wicked. Good. Now you know how I've been feeling since the moment you stepped on the ice today. He pulled back, but his hand lingered on my face for a heartbeat longer. Go home, Max. Get some sleep. Dream about me. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of us. He finally released me, and the loss of contact felt like cold water. See you tomorrow morning? Yeah, tomorrow. I got out, my legs unsteady, my whole body thrumming with want. Watched him drive away. Then I stood there in the empty parking lot, heart racing, mind spinning, and wondered what the hell had just happened. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. In case you were wondering, yes, I'm going to make you wait. Yes, it's going to be worth it. And yes, I'm going to enjoy watching you squirm every time we touch on the ice tomorrow. Sweet dreams, Max. I stared at the message, read it 3 times, then very much against myself smiled. This was going to be torture. This was going to be dangerous. This was going to be absolutely worth it. And Zach Bennett was going to ruin me in the best way possible. But first, I had to survive tomorrow's practice without combusting the moment he put his hands on me. 6 a.m. couldn't come fast enough, and also way too soon. I barely slept, my mind replaying every moment from the day before. The skating, the falling, the dinner. That look in Zach's eyes when he'd said he wanted to kiss me. His thumb on my lip, the way my entire body had caught fire from that one simple touch. His text message that I definitely didn't read 47 times before finally passing out around 3 a.m. I got to the rink at 5:30 because apparently I had completely lost all sense of self-preservation and decided that showing up early to torture myself was a great idea. The parking lot was empty except for one familiar BMW that made my stomach flip. He was already here. I sat in my car for a full minute, trying to calm my racing heart, telling myself that this was just practice, just skating, just 2 people learning to work together. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. I finally forced myself out of the car and walked into the building. The rink was dark, except for the emergency lights, and I could hear music playing softly. Something instrumental, haunting. And there, in the center of the ice, was Zach. He was running through a routine, eyes closed, completely lost in the movement. And God, watching him like this, when he didn't know anyone was looking, was breathtaking. There was a vulnerability to his skating that he usually hid, a softness that made my chest ache. He turned, caught sight of me, and the music stopped. "You're early," he said, skating over. He was breathing hard, his dark hair damp with sweat, and I had to actively force myself to look at his face and not at the way his shirt clung to his chest. "So were you." "Couldn't sleep." He came to a stop at the boards, and the way he looked at me, like he'd been waiting, like he was hungry for the sight of me, made my mouth go dry. Kept thinking about yesterday. "The skating?" "Among other things." His eyes dropped to my mouth, lingered there. "You look tired. Did you sleep?" "Not really." "Good." His smile was wicked. "Means you were thinking about me too." "You're very arrogant." "I'm honest." He leaned against the boards, and I was acutely aware of how close he was, how the cold air seemed to disappear in the heat of his gaze. "Come on, let's skate. Annie won't be here for another 30 minutes. "Just us?" "Just us." The way he said it sounded like a promise. "Unless you're scared to be alone with me." "I'm not scared of you." "Then prove it." He pushed off the boards, skating backward. "Come on, Max. Show me what you've got." I laced up my skates with shaking hands and stepped onto the ice. The cold hit me immediately, but it did nothing to cool the heat simmering under my skin. Zach skated up beside me. "Let's try something. No lifts, no jumps, just skating. Following each other. Mirroring movements." "Why?" "Because I want to see how you move, want to understand your body, and you need to understand mine." The way he said body made electricity shoot down my spine. We started slowly. He'd glide forward, and I'd follow, matching his edges, his rhythm. Then we'd switch, and he'd follow me, shadowing my every movement. It was intimate, this wordless communication, learning the language of each other's bodies through blade and ice and breath. After a few minutes, he moved closer, skating beside me, our arms almost touching. Now together, side by side, match me. We moved in unison, our bodies synchronized, and it felt like dancing, like we were connected by an invisible thread. Every turn, every shift of weight, every subtle movement, we were perfectly aligned. "Good," he murmured. "Now closer." He closed the distance between us until our shoulders were touching, until I could feel the heat of him through our clothes. We kept skating, kept moving together, and the contact was maddening. Every brush of his arm against mine sent sparks through my nervous system. "Do you feel that?" he asked, his voice rough. "That connection?" "Yeah, I feel it." That's what we need on the ice, that awareness, that trust. But I think we already have it, don't we? Before I could answer, he pulled away, leaving me cold and aching. He skated backward, facing me, that challenging smile on his face. "Now let's try a lift. Something simple. I'm going to skate toward you, and you're going to catch me. Support my weight. Trust that you can hold me." "Zach." "Trust yourself, Max, and trust me." He picked up speed, skating toward me, and instinct took over. I planted my feet, reached for him, and then he was in my arms, his hands on my shoulders, my hands on his waist, his body pressed against me as I lifted him. He extended into an arabesque, and for a moment we were suspended there, moving together, his weight perfectly balanced in my grip. His face was inches from mine, his dark eyes locked on me, and the intensity of his gaze made my heart stutter. "See?" he breathed. "You can do this. You can hold me." I could feel every muscle in his body, the strength and control it took to hold that position. Could feel the heat of him, the way his breath ghosted against my face, and I wanted to close that distance, to taste him, to... "Max," he whispered, and there was something desperate in his voice. "If you don't put me down right now, I'm going to do something we're both not ready for." I lowered him carefully, and when his skates touched the ice, he didn't move away, stayed pressed against me, his hands still on my shoulders, his forehead almost touching mine. "This is dangerous," I said roughly. "I know. We're supposed to be partners. Professional." "I know that too." His hands slid from my shoulders to my chest, and I felt my heart hammering against his palm. "Tell me you don't want this. Tell me I'm imagining the way you look at me, the way you respond when I touch you. Tell me and I'll back off. We'll just be partners. Nothing more." I should have said it. Should have been smart, protective, careful. But I'd spent 18 months being careful, playing it safe, hiding from everything that scared me. And Zach Bennett terrified me in the best way possible. I can't tell you that." Something blazed in his eyes. "Thank God," he breathed, and then his mouth was on mine. The kiss was everything I had imagined, and nothing I had prepared for. He kissed me like he skated, with complete commitment, no hesitation, absolute certainty. His hands cupped my face, tilting my head to deepen the kiss, and I melted into him, my own hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He tasted of mint and coffee and something uniquely him. His mouth was hot, demanding, and when his tongue swept against mine, I made a sound that should have been embarrassing, but only made him kiss me harder. We were moving backward, though I didn't remember starting, and then my back hit the boards and he pressed against me, his body pinning me there. One of his hands slid into my hair, gripping, while the other traced down my side, and everywhere he touched felt like fire. "Max," he groaned against my mouth. "God, I've wanted this since the moment I saw you yesterday."
Yesterday? I gasped as his mouth moved to my jaw, my neck. That's all? No. He nipped at my throat, and I felt it everywhere. I've wanted this for years. Since I was 15 and watched you skate for the first time. Since I decided you were everything I wanted to be. He pulled back to look at me, his eyes dark and wild. Everything I wanted to have. Zach, I know it's crazy. I know it's too fast, too much, but I don't care. His thumb traced my swollen lower lip. Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me this is a mistake, and I'll walk away. But don't lie to me. Don't lie to yourself. I looked at him, at this beautiful, intense man who'd somehow broken through every wall I'd built, and knew I was completely gone for him. I don't want you to stop, I admitted. The door to the rink opened, and we sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Annie walked in, coffee in hand, and if she noticed that we were both breathing hard, that my hair was messed up, that Zach's lips were red and swollen, she didn't comment. Morning, she said cheerfully. Ready to work? Zach caught my eye, and his smile was pure sin. Oh, we're definitely ready to work. The next 2 hours were torture. Every time Zach touched me, for lifts, for choreography, for any reason, it felt like that kiss, like a promise of more. His hands would linger on my waist, his breath would ghost against my ear when he corrected my position, and the look in his eyes said he was doing it on purpose. He was driving me insane, and he knew it. Annie had us working on a routine for a championship, a dramatic, passionate piece that required us to be pressed close to move together like lovers. And now that I knew what his mouth felt like on mine, every moment of the choreography felt loaded with meaning. There was a part near the end where I had to catch him coming out of a spin, where he'd end up cradled in my arms, his face tilted up toward mine. The first time we ran it, when he looked up at me with those dark eyes, his lips parted, breathing hard, I almost kissed him again, right there, with Annie watching. Good, Annie called. That's the intensity I want, that hunger, that need. Whatever you're thinking about, keep thinking about it. Zach's lips curved into a knowing smile. Oh, I will. By the time practice ended, I was wound so tight I might shatter. Every nerve ending was on fire. Every breath felt like too much. And the way Zach kept looking at me like he wanted to devour me wasn't helping. Annie gathered us at the boards. That was excellent work today. You two have chemistry. Real chemistry. Whatever clicked between yesterday and today, keep it. Nurture it. You're going to need it for the championship. We'll nurture it, Zach said, his eyes never leaving mine. Count on it. After Annie left, we were alone again. Zach skated up to me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. So, he said, tonight, my place. I'll cook dinner, we'll talk, and he paused, his hand coming up to cut my jaw. And maybe we'll figure out what this is between us. Your place? Unless you'd rather go somewhere public where I have to keep my hands to myself, but I'd rather not. I'd rather have you all to myself. No interruptions, no audience, just us. The thought of being alone with him, without the ice between us, without the pretense of practice, it should have terrified me. Instead, it made anticipation coil hot and tight in my stomach. What time? I heard myself ask. His smile was devastating. 7. I'll text you the address. He leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear. And Vax, where's something I can take off easily? Then he pulled away and skated off, leaving me standing there, heart racing, body aching, wondering how I was going to survive the next 10 hours. I spent the day trying to distract myself, went to the gym, ran until my ankle protested, lifted weights until my muscles burned, took a longer shower than necessary, telling myself I wasn't getting ready for tonight, I was just practicing basic hygiene. Except I spent 20 minutes deciding what to wear, changed 3 times, settled on dark jeans that fit well, and a soft gray sweater that Annie had once said made my eyes look bluer. Something I can take off easily, he'd said. Jesus. At 6:59 p.m., I was standing outside his building, a modern high-rise downtown with a doorman and everything. The address he'd texted was the penthouse. Of course it was. I rode the elevator up, my palms sweating and my heart hammering, and when the doors opened directly into his apartment, Zach was there waiting. He'd changed too. Dark jeans, a black button-down with the sleeves rolled up, feet bare, casual and devastating. and looking at me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. "You came," he said softly. "You didn't think I would?" "I hoped. But hope and certainty are different things." He sat back to let me in. I walked into his apartment, and it was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that somehow still felt warm, artwork on the walls. But all I could focus on was him. The way he moved, the way he watched me, the way the air between us felt like charged with possibility. "Wine?" he offered. "Sure." He poured 2 glasses and handed me one, his fingers brushing mine in a touch that felt deliberate. "Dinner's almost ready. I made pasta, nothing fancy, but I promise it's good." "You cook?" "I have many talents, Max." His smile was knowing. "Some of which you've already discovered. Others," he stepped closer, "others I'm looking forward to showing you." I took a long drink of wine. "You're very confident." "I'm very attracted to you. There's a difference." He set his own glass down and closed the distance between us. "I've been thinking about that kiss all day. About your mouth, your taste, the sounds you made." His hand came up to cup my face. "I want to hear more of those sounds." "Zach, but first, dinner. Because I meant what I said. I want to do this right." He pulled away and I felt the loss like a physical ache. "Come on, help me in the kitchen." We cooked together, or rather he cooked while I watched, stealing glances at the way his forearms flexed as he stirred, the way he moved with such easy confidence. We talked about everything and nothing. He told me about his growing up in Seattle, about his first skating coach who had seen potential in him when no one else did. I told him about my dad and about the years after his death when skating was the only thing that made sense. The whole time there was this current of tension running underneath, this awareness that we were circling around what we both wanted. When dinner was ready, we sat at his dining table, and it felt intimate, domestic, like we'd done this 100 times before. "This is really good," I said, around a mouthful of pasta. "Told ya." He was watching me eat with an intensity that made me self-conscious. "You're beautiful. You know that." I nearly choked. "What?" "Beautiful. The way you move, the way you think, the way you can't quite hide what you're feeling, even when you try." He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. "I know this is fast. I know we barely know each other. But I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting you." My heart was racing. "I want you to. But what?" "But I'm scared," I admitted. "What if this doesn't work? What if we try and it ruins the partnership? We have the championship in 3 months, and if we screw this up, then we figure it out. Together." He squeezed my hand. "I'm not saying it'll be easy, but Max, some things are worth the risk. And you're worth every risk." I looked at him, at those dark eyes full of certainty and desire, and felt something crack open in my chest. I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time. I haven't let myself feel this way. And it terrifies me. "Good." He stood, pulling me up with him. "Because you terrify me too. This," he gestured between us, "this intensity, this connection, it's not normal. It's not safe. And I don't care." He cupped my face with both hands. "I want you, Max. All of you. The broken parts, the scared parts, the parts you think aren't good enough. I want it all. Zach, tell me no if you don't want this. Tell me to slow down. But if you want me even half as much as I want you, then stop fighting it." I looked at him, at this man who'd broken through every defense, who made me feel alive for the first time in months, thought about all the reasons this could go wrong. Then I stopped thinking entirely. "I'm done fighting," I whispered. His eyes blazed. Thank God. And then his mouth was on mine again. This kiss was different from the one at the rink. Deeper, slower, more deliberate. He kissed me like he had all the time in the world, like he wanted to memorize every angle, every taste, every response. His hands slid into my hair, tilting my head exactly where he wanted it, and I let him take control. Let him show me what he'd been wanting.
He walked me backward through his apartment, never breaking the kiss, until we reached his bedroom. The city lights streamed through the windows, bathing everything in soft light. "Last chance," he murmured against my mouth. "Tell me to stop and I will." "Don't stop," I breathed. "Please don't stop." His answering smile was pure sin. I was hoping you'd say that. He pulled my sweater over my head, tossing it aside, and his hands immediately went to my chest, exploring. His touch was reverent, worshipful, like I was something precious he wanted to cherish. "Beautiful," he whispered, leaning down to press kisses along my collarbone. "So damn beautiful." My own hands went to his shirt, fumbling with the buttons. He helped me, shrugging it off, and then we were skin to skin, and the contact made us both groan. "Bed," he commanded. "Now." I let him push me down onto the mattress, and he followed, covering my body with his. The weight of him, the heat, it was overwhelming in the best way. He kissed me again, deep and demanding, while his hands explored every inch of exposed skin. When he ground his hips against mine, we both gasped at the friction. "Feel what you do to me," he growled against my throat. "I've been like this all day, wanting you, thinking about this moment." "Zach." His name came out desperate, pleading. "I know. I've got you." His hand slid down my stomach, fingers working at my belt. "I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to make you feel so good you forget everything but my name." And then his hand was on me and coherent thought became impossible. The next hours were a blur of heat and need and discovery. He learned my body like he learned my skating, with intense focus and dedication, noted what made me gasp and what made me arch, what made me beg. And I learned his, finding the sensitive spots, the places that made him groan my name, the touches that made him lose control. When we finally came together, when he pressed inside me with aching slowness, we both stilled, foreheads pressed together, breathing hard, eyes locked. "Okay?" he whispered. "More than okay," I managed. "Perfect." He started to move, and it was exactly like skating with him. That perfect synchronization, that wordless understanding, that connection that went deeper than physical. Every thrust, every touch, every kiss felt like coming home. "Max," he groaned, his control fraying. "God, Max." "I know," I gasped, my hands gripping his shoulders, nails digging in. "I'm close. I'm with me," he commanded, one hand sliding between us. "Now." And I did, shattering in his arms, his name on my lips, while he followed me over the edge. After, we lay tangled together, sweat-slicked and breathless. He pulled me against his chest, his hand stroking lazily up and down my spine. That was... yeah, it really was. I could feel his heart hammering against my cheek, gradually slowing. Could feel his breath rise and fall. And I felt safe, content. Like maybe, possibly, this could be real. "Stay," he murmured into my hair. "Stay tonight. Let me wake up with you." "Okay," I whispered. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "We're going to be incredible together, Max, on and off the ice." "How do you know?" "Because I can feel it. Can't you?" His hand found mine, lacing our fingers together. "This is just the beginning." I wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this, us, could work, but fear still lingered at the edges. What if we screw it up? The championship, the partnership, us? Then we figure it out, together. That's what partners do. I'm not going anywhere, Max, not unless you tell me to. So if you're done running, if you're done hiding, then let's do this. All of it. The skating, the competition, and whatever this is between us. I looked at him, at those dark eyes full of certainty and desire, and felt something crack open in my chest. I'm done running. His smile was brilliant. Good, because I'm just getting started.
He kissed me again, slow and deep, and I felt myself falling. Not the terrifying fall that had ended my career, but a different kind. The kind where you trust someone will catch you. The kind that feels like flying. We made love again, slower this time, learning each other in the darkness. And when we finally fell asleep, tangled together, I felt something I hadn't felt in 18 months. Hope. The alarm went off at 5 a.m., and I groaned. Zach's arm tightened around me. 5 more minutes, he mumbled into my neck. We have practice at 6. Don't care. You're warm. Staying here. Despite myself, I smiled. Annie will kill us if we're late. Worth it. But he pressed a kiss to my shoulder and reluctantly let me go. Fine, but tonight you're coming back here, and we're sleeping in. Presumptuous. Hopeful. He rolled over to look at me, and his hair was messed up, his eyes still sleepy, and he was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Last night was incredible, Max, and I want more. More nights like that, more mornings waking up next to you, more everything. My chest felt tight. Me too. Good. He kissed me, morning breath and all. Now let's go skate. Let's show Annie what we can do when we're finally on the same page. We showered together, which turned into another round of exploration that made us nearly late. Drove separately to the rink, trying to maintain some semblance of professionalism. But when we stepped onto the ice together, everything changed. The chemistry we'd had before was nothing compared to this. Now that we knew each other's bodies, now that we'd crossed that line, every touch, every lift, every moment of the routine felt charged with intimacy. We moved together like we'd been partnered for years, not days, like we were made for this. Annie watched with knowing eyes and a satisfied smile. Well, she said, when we finished our first run-through, I see you two worked out your tension. I felt my face heat. Annie. Don't. She held up her hand. I don't need details. What I need is for you to keep doing exactly what you're doing. Because that, she gestured at the ice, that was magic. That's what's going to win the championship. Zach caught my eye and winked. We'll keep doing exactly what we're doing. Promise. The next 3 weeks flew by in a blur of practice and stolen moments. We spent every night together, learning each other off the ice as thoroughly as we were learning each other on it. He cooked for me, I introduced him to my favorite books. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, made love until we were both exhausted and aching in the best way. And on the ice, we were unstoppable. The routine Annie had choreographed became something more, a story of two people finding each other, trusting each other, falling for each other. Every lift was a leap of faith. Every spin was a dance of desire. Every moment together was proof that sometimes the best partnerships are the ones you never saw coming. But as the championship grew closer, reality started creeping in. The pressure, the expectations, the knowledge that everyone would be watching, judging, waiting to see if Max Donald could make a comeback or if he'd fall apart again. One night, 2 weeks before the competition, I woke up in a cold sweat, my ankle throbbing, the memory of that fall sharp and vivid in my mind. Hey. Zach's arms came around me immediately. Hey, it's okay. You're okay. I can't. I was shaking. What if I fail? What if I let you down? You won't. You don't know that. I do. He pulled me back against his chest, his chin resting on my shoulder. Because I know you, Max. I know how hard you work, how dedicated you are, how much you want this. And I know that even if you fall, you'll get back up. That's who you are. But what if I can't? What if the ankle gives out? What if... Then we adapt. We figure it out together. He pressed a kiss to my temple.
But you need to stop living in the fear of what might happen and start trusting what is happening. We're good, Max. We're so damn good. And in 2 weeks, we're going to prove it to everyone. I turned in his arms to look at me. And how are you so certain? Because I believe in us, in you. And I need you to believe in us too. Can you do that? I looked into his eyes, those dark eyes that had seen me at my worst, and somehow still wanted me, and felt some of the fear ease. I can try? I whispered. That's all I ask. Now, come here. Let me distract you until you fall back asleep. And he did, with gentle touches and whispered words, until the fear faded and all that was left was us. The day before we were supposed to leave for the championship, everything fell apart. I was at the rink early, running through a practice routine alone when I landed wrong on a double axel. My ankle twisted, pain shot up my leg, and I went down hard. For a moment, I just laid there on the ice, terror flooding through me. Not again. Please, God, not again. Annie rushed over. Don't move. Let me see. She examined my ankle carefully, while I tried not to panic. Every breath felt too shallow. Every heartbeat felt too fast. It's not broken, she finally said, but it's a bad sprain. You need to rest it, ice it, compress it, and elevate it, and stay off it for at least a few days. The championship is in 2 days. I know. I can't, Annie, we can't pull out now, not after everything. Max, her voice was firm. If you compete on this ankle, you could do permanent damage. Is that really worth it? I thought about Zach, about the hours we'd put in, the trust we'd built, the partnership we'd forged, about the way he looked at me like I was everything he'd been searching for. I have to try, I said quietly. I can't let him down. Annie sighed. Then we do this smart. Rest, ice, compression, elevation, we tape it, we brace it, and you do not practice until competition day. Understood? I nodded, even though the thought of not practicing terrified me. Zach arrived 20 minutes later, took one look at me sitting on the bench with ice wrapped around my ankle, and went pale. What happened? Bad landing, it's fine. Just a sprain. It's not fine. He crouched in front of me, his hands gentle as he examined the ankle. Max, if you can't compete, I can compete. You don't know that. I do. I grabbed his hand, held it tight. I'm not letting you down. I'm not letting us down. We've worked too hard for this. I don't care about the competition. I care about you. His eyes were fierce. If you hurt yourself trying to push through this, I won't. I'll be careful. I promise. I pulled him closer. But I need to do this, Zach. I need to prove to myself, to everyone, that I'm not broken, that I can come back from this. He stared at me for a long moment, conflict clear on his face. Then he sighed. Okay, but we do this right. You rest, I'll handle the media, and we'll make the final call on competition day. Deal? Deal. He leaned in and kissed me, soft and worried. You're going to give me a heart attack, you know that. Sorry. No, you're not. But he was smiling, even if it didn't quite reach his eyes. Come on, let's get you home. The next 48 hours were torture. I rested, iced, elevated, did everything the doctors told me to, but the fear never quite left. The what-ifs spiraled through my mind constantly. Zach stayed with me the whole time, refusing to leave even to practice. He brought me food, kept me distracted with movies and conversation, held me when the anxiety got too bad. What if I can't do this? I asked him the night before we were supposed to leave. Then we withdraw, together. He was lying next to me, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my arm. I meant what I said. You're more important than any competition. But no buts. Yes, I want to compete. Yes, I want to win, but not at the cost of your health, not at the cost of us. He turned to look at me. You have to trust that I mean that. I did. That was the terrifying part. I trusted him completely. I love you, I blurted out, the word surprising both of us. Zach went very still. What? I love you, I said again, more certain this time. I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I do, and I needed you to know that before tomorrow, before everything. His smile was brilliant. Thank God, because I've been in love with you since you landed that first lift and looked at me like maybe I wasn't the enemy after all. He kissed me, deep and thorough, and I felt it everywhere. Felt the truth of his words, the certainty of what we had. So let's do this, he murmured against my lips. Let's go to this championship, let's skate our hearts out, and then let's come home and build a life together. Sound good? Sounds perfect. Competition day arrived, and my ankle held. Barely, but it held. The arena was packed, thousands of people, cameras everywhere, the pressure enormous. And standing beside me, warm and solid and certain, was Zach. Ready? He asked. I looked at him, at this man who'd brought me back to life, who'd made me believe in myself again, who loved me despite all my broken parts. With you? Always. We took the ice. The music started. And we flew. To be continued.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next story.